All right, you know what's coming next? Grant Thomas, that famous game, Anzac Day. Let's have a listen to Grant Thomas first, and then we'll go through the incident point by point and see whether Josh Fraser did dog it.
To see Josh Fraser dog it in that first 3 or 4 minutes of that game, terrible for him, but it really set the scene with Collingwood.
How did that make you feel? There couldn't be many worse things said about a footballer, I reckon. Richo, firstly, would you agree that would be the worst thing you could say about a footballer?
Definitely. I mean, as a footballer, you know that you're going to get questioned for these sort of things, courage issues, because every single time you go for the ball, you're being scrutinised. But I think to describe it like Grant did, I personally thought it was a bit of a disgrace. Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I guess initially I was pretty shocked and disappointed by the comments, but after a little while it was really water off a duck's back because I just didn't think there was any truth in them. I thought they were probably, obviously poorly timed, and I thought the way he summed up the incident itself was just ridiculous. So it was easy enough for me to move on, and I've got enough faith in the coaching staff and the playing group around me that if they thought there was an issue there, that they would have come and grabbed me before anyone. So it was.
Well, here it is. Let's have a look at it. Ball loose there. David Hill, the Essendon ruckman. He doesn't go near the footy. The footy's there to be got. He decides to go over the top of the footy and hit into you, Josh. I was sitting in the commentary booth, Channel 10 commentary booth with Luke Darcy, ruckman, terrific ruckman. This is what Luke had to say when that happened.
Little toe poke kick comes out in the direction of Hill. Got a bad bounce. He takes his eye off the ball and went for Fraser. Love it, Murray. He tackles and holding the ball.
Not great from David Hill there before an opportunity to really put his head over the ball and attack it. Took his eye off it. He's in poor form, and when you're out of confidence, that's not a good way to get it back. He should have just smashed him with his head over the footy.
Well, Luke got it right. You got it right. Thomas got it wrong, and you were unfairly maligned. As simple as that. And you're aware of that. You know that. So as you say, water off a duck's back, and good on you for that. But it was disappointing. But you also, in the same game, you got criticised by one of your former teammates in Shane Wakeman.
Yep.
And he was very critical of you.
From the start?
At the start. This is at the opening bounce of the game.
Well, again, let's go through this point by point. Let's listen to Shane Wakeland's grab first on SEN.
Josh Fraser, for me, was incredibly disappointing. I watched him at the first bounce, did not get off the ground.
Did not get off the ground. Let's have a look at this opening bounce.
Down she goes. And up you went. I mean, it wasn't the greatest climb of all time, Josh, but you got off the ground.
He got off the ground higher than David Hill. So, Shane Wakeland, you were wrong. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Former teammate?
Well, Wakes has been pretty outspoken of recent times, and I think he's probably a bit of self-promotion in there as well. I think Wakes is probably on a short-term contract with SEN and is probably trying to shore up a longer-term deal. It seems to be his style. He had a crack at Reece Shaw, he had a crack at me, and I guess his comments about Mick also. So that's the way Wakes wants to go. That's fine. But one thing I will say is I had great respect for him as a player and all those sorts of things. But I think when you cross the boundary into a media position, particularly early on, I think you can probably be a bit more constructive in your criticism and critique of the game.
You've played in the ruck, haven't you, Richo?
I have. I've gone in there a few times, Josh, and I sit back and I look at the ruckman. I'd never really been in there, but the last couple of years I've had to go in there a few times. So I've got a new admiration for the courage it takes. You know, two big guys, over 100 kilos, crashing in. And especially every time Josh is jumping up there, he knows he's got a sore PCL. He's risking that being injured every time, and Troy Simmons has gone through that at Richmond. And it takes a lot of courage to go in there in the ruck, and people to sit back and make comments that haven't played there. I don't think they should until they probably have.
It can make you look pretty silly too, the ruck at times, because sometimes you're jumping early as a tactic and your opponent will slip you and you float past the contest, and sometimes you're waiting for the initial jump and you find yourself a bit flat-footed. So all these things come into play, and as Richo said, he's probably been in there and found a new appreciation for ruckman.